I'm Lisa Starr, and this is Natural Time, my YouTube version of my podcast, which is on the big platforms. And I am here to talk about Mayan astrology, and I'm keeping it pretty casual, even though it is the last day of the Mayan calendar. Do you remember that was a big deal? December 21st, 2012 was considered the end of the Mayan calendar, but it was just the end of a 5,200 year cycle. And then we began a new one that's kind of uncharted territory because the Maya couldn't really anticipate what a new cycle would be like. To end a 5,200 year cycle for them was ominous and auspicious enough. So we're in unscripted territory, and we have been for 12 years. But right now we are just finishing a 260-day calendar, and it's really powerful to finish and begin again. Today is called Yellow Cosmic Sun, and it is a portal day. It is literally the last day of the calendar, and tomorrow is the first day of the new cycle. Tomorrow will be Red Magnetic Dragon, and it begins the Red Dragon wave spell about birth, and the motif is matriarchy, the great mother, that we're born in the womb of our own mothers, but there is this like sacred womb that we all occupy in the kind of like under the auspices of this goddess figure who is the crocodile for the Maya, and we kind of bring that crocodilian reptilian energy up to the majesty of the imagined dragon. And we'll be celebrating that wave spell for 13 days starting tomorrow. So on the one hand, we could be kind of fixated on that beginning, that new beginning, but I want to talk for a moment about finishing and earning something when we complete a 260-day Tzolk'in cycle. I'm pretty versed in all of this because I've been following the calendar for 25 years and like nonstop. And I always say that, I catch myself just so I'm clear to myself and to you, like there hasn't been any break from it. And so I really, really love tracking the accomplishment of another 260-day Tzolk'in. Like this isn't a accomplishment-driven path. It's about experience and expression, like moving through time as awake as possible to the present moment and having it really colored and inspired by the totems of the Mayan teaching. But nonetheless, there is like a learning curve each 260 days Tzolk'in. There are like hills and mountains to climb, and there are tribes that we move through for their 13-day wave spells that are really challenging for the human that we are in our society now, because this is an indigenous teaching and we aren't indigenous anymore. This can create a pathway back, and we can be sort of paranormally transported to something previous to our postmodern world, but that can create friction, right? As we're following an indigenous calendar, there'll be whole episodic experiences that are really rough for us. We don't know what to make of them because we're conditioned for something else now. So when we go through the Tzolk'in, we have times that are just innately disorienting. And when we get to the end of the Tzolk'in, we can say or see that we made it. We did that. We did all of that. And then I can get some trepidation because the end of the Tzolk'in can feel so smooth or serene. And then here we start, and we're going to start anew. We're going to start in the beginning of the journey, this mythological journey once more. We're going to be surprised and challenged and stretched thin and disoriented and found and delivered. When we finish the Tzolk'in, there's a way of feeling that we're returning to the light, because the yellow star wave spell is the last 13-day stretch, and it really is kind of when we as humans become star people, which is what I believe the Maya are. When we follow their calendar, we're able to connect with something, again, mystical, paranormal, like that they as an energy field are in the stars out there, a chosen space in their own perceived heavens, and we can connect to that. When we follow the calendar, we are connected to that, and it feels like another part of our outreach to divinity. A lot of us have practices that pre-existed following a calendar that are divine, or we connect. I feel like I have kind of a parental God that I think about, takes care of me, looks after me, teaches me things. Some people love angels, etc., etc., etc. But then we can add the Maya, the ascended Maya, to our pantheon of protectors and guides and inspiration. And so I think when we're in Yellow Star, we're kind of taken to where they are. You know, we become part of the stars system itself in the heavens for a moment, and it is the completion phase of this journey. And then there's just like all those pictures of, you know, when we die, we return to the light, and when we're born, we come from some kind of light-filled space, and this is the moment right now which connects death or completion of one cycle and birth and beginnings of the next. So I won't like preach about it because that's not really my mood right now. My mood is pretty placid, and that's probably because we're in the cosmic moon or month of our 13 moon year, and a lot has come up already. We're only 10 days into it, and there's been so much kind of like what I used to call drama, or could call drama, and I just feel very placid or at peace, mostly in the midst of it, because the cosmic moon is the last stage of a 13 moon wave spell. It's 28 days of being in the cosmic tone, and the cosmic tone is always a bridge between wave spells. And so to spend 28 days in that bridge space is to really be fulfilled with the peace and emptiness and spaciousness, maybe is a better word, of the inactivity of the connection point between wave spells. Because not only is the wave spell wave shaped and it builds to a peak, and it's driven by like forces of nature to grow and ascend, and it's like riding a seismic tsunami wave. So we're pushed and we grow and we rise, and then we fall back, and that's one picture of action that takes place over a wave spell of 13 days or 13 moons or 13 years. And then the other part is, for me, more like the storyline. The storyline is of a hero's journey where we leave a place of comfort or home, and we go out and explore the unknown, and we find guides and helper agents along the path, but we are fraught with challenge at many points. It's kind of like the fairy tale script, and we overcome that. We do. We rise above, and by rising above or getting beyond our obstacles, we also get a sense of a divine realm. Like that's the fusion of getting past human level dilemmas, is feeling, I think, aerated and connected to the divine. And then we plunge back to earth, even if we had that high, that experience of connection as part of what we journeyed through or beyond. And so then we're home again, you know, we fall back to earth and into the place we began, but we're changed. So that cycle happens over and over. And what I find like poignant or meaningful about it is that it's always pretty action. It's not like action driven, like we're on the go, but it's evolutionary. So what happens in the cosmic tone, which can be one day, or like right now, a 28-day month or moon, or it can be a whole year. What happens for that duration of time is that we're just not in the action part. The journey is over. A new one is stirring, but we haven't begun it yet. It's the spaciousness of being between quests. And I love how it feels. This has happened to me the last few years. We're just like really heartened by being in the cosmic tone. I really love being more neutral, and I keep wanting to say peaceful or serene, but it's not like that. It's like placid but not inert. Placid, like, water is like between waves. I very much have to reiterate or sell this point a lot because I live along the ocean, that waves, they come in sets, and then there can be stillness, that there won't be another wave. It's a trick of the eye, like, wait, there's no waves at all. And nope, there's a bunch of them. And so that moment when things aren't forming into wave shapes is very much how the cosmic tone feels to me. So it's not just that it's still and peaceful, but it's remarkable. We're used to action. We're used to demands on us and to be reactive and respond, to be busy. And then the cosmic tone is this luscious, natural invitation to just be, I guess, like a passenger of something that is just not roiled for now. So I'm happy about that. There's just been plenty of stuff going on in my personal life, not to mention the cultural moment that we find ourselves in. I mean, there's always something going on culturally, but the way I want to speak about that is that the cosmic moon day 10 or 11 that we find ourselves in is well before the action or most vigorous part of the moon itself, which will peak in the third week in the west. So it'll be day 15 to 21, and we're on day 10 into 11, so we have some time, but we still get to find out what we're supposed to learn about being present and what else we might have to endure and transcend in anticipation of what is stirring about the new 13 moon year that begins July 26th. So we're in a time of transitions that are kind of coordinated. The Zolkin is ending and beginning right now. And then in just a couple of weeks, we have the end and the beginning of our natural time or Mayan year. So I'm really mellow. I just love it. I think that this is the time when we transit between Zolkins, or we transit between years. And since both are really in close proximity, it's amplified, where I feel like a badass for loving this calendar and having really so much devotion to it. I wasn't raised with any form of religion, but I was raised with a lot of access and appreciation of nature. So I came to God or divinity after never having that exemplified as being like a person or a personage. It's just the majesty of sunrise, sunset, tides, oceans, mountains. Like I saw the peaceful, sacred part of the world through my youthful experiences in nature. And so natural time is easy for me because it has that moniker of basically just bringing us back to something organic. So I feel certain, because we're at the ending and beginning in certain ways, that it is organic and ordained to feel the pleasure of finishing or completing a journey, kind of like when you get to the top of a mountain or you get back down to the bottom again and you're home. That something really exciting and majestic took place, you know, both in what you saw, but also what you felt within in response to it. Like, I feel the same effect here and now. And I also feel really connected to others who follow the calendar when we come to these junctures, because nobody really knows or cares that they're happening. And, you know, why or how is that so? I want to reiterate that, especially if you're new and trying to understand the Mayan cycles and natural time, etc., like, you might wonder why it's not more popular. And here's what I think. Astrology is complicated. Like, I don't understand Western astrology, zodiac astrology, hardly at all. I mean, I know what I am as a sun sign and a moon sign and a rising sign, and I definitely believe and understand Mercury retrograde, but I don't know all the layers and the houses and the sextants and all this science. I have never explored or felt drawn to, and it's not easy to access. You're not easily falling into all those intricacies. And Mayan natural time astrology is very similar. It's very complex and it's intellectual in a way to take hold of all the cycles. However, it is also way more simple and like less mathematical day by day to follow it than to follow Western astrology. Like, Western astrology is dealing with actual astronomy, and we're not. We're dealing with mythology. So we're following 20 days that have nothing to do with placement of stars, but they have to do with the Mayan orientation of the most revered totems. And by following through the totems, we are in the circle of life. Everything's accounted for. And then following wave spells is reorienting us to something that is circular and rolling. So it's both circular, completing circles, but also moving forward. So that's why the waveform makes the most sense, because we go around, but we also evolve. And we create rhythm instead of a rhythmic pattern, stopping and starting, going left and right. You know, the frenetic pace or approach of chaos from an undisciplined practice is overcome when we follow the wave spells, because they train our bodies and synapses and sensitivities to be in alignment with a circle cycle of 13 over and over. So it's less complex once you feel the 20 tribes and the 13 tones. And then I always offer layers and details that are more complicated, but there's no rush. So that's one reason that people don't follow this, though, because it's demanding. And lots of people know the least amount about regular astrology, like me, but don't know the intricacies of it. So the reason that people don't know the least amount of Mayan astrology is twofold, I believe. One is racism, because it's indigenous Central America and Mexico, and there's just been a lot of training, at least in America, to think less of, and that people there are less than. So that, but also Maya sacrificed humans, and I think that's probably the largest reason that their pantheon of extremely gifted intelligence and their discoveries, they were equal to the Romans and the Egyptians, really, in terms of their archaeological and scientific and astronomical understanding. But we can't equate such grand, prolific civilizations to, like, you know, Mexicans now, Guatemalans, you know, people can't give them that credence or reverence. But I think the reason it was distasteful and extinguished from memory, as well as through colonization, and is because of the human sacrifice ceremony. So that's your answer, if you were to ask me. But I think that I teach over and over that you can see the human sacrifice ceremony for what it is and know that sacrifice has to be a part of life. Like, we're all going to have losses. We're all going to feel things torn from us. And it's really how you act when that's happening or in the aftermath that is the teaching here, right? How to level off, how to accept impermanence, how to let go of attachment, how to deal with grief and, the desperation of being disconnected from something that you love or someone. And so I don't know if that's like a good ceremonious way to end the year, but that's what's on my mind as I sit here. It's been hard for me to come on to the airwaves. I always want people who know my work to understand I am not doing this to like increase the numbers. I'm so happy if you found me. I really care about the calendar, and I have been dedicated, and I dedicate a part of my life to sharing and teaching. That's what this is for. And meanwhile, there's life to be lived, and it's full of its own curvatures, and I go through it, and I want to recede. I'm an introvert, and then I don't show up here. But it's not because I don't think it's worth you continuing on the journey, whether I show up here or not. I hope you stay with it. And you can always find me in the podcast world. Again, Natural Time is the title of my podcast. And, I do personal readings, so you can find me anytime you need to do that as well. I'm Lisa Starr. I am another yourself. And in Mayan, we say, in Lakesh.